Have you ever wanted to escape? To leave this world behind and go to one where your problems are far away? Where defenders protect us from all the bad of our world? Where everything is just easier? I know I have, and I'm pretty sure you have too. It is human to crave escapism, and billion-dollar industries were created to help us in that mission. Often, all we are trying to escape are daily struggles. Bad days at work, flat tires, an embarrassing PE day where you forgot your shorts and had to wear a pair 2 sizes too small, and some girls chuckled in your direction while walking with your friends, so you just try to ignore it, but you find it really hard because you really liked one of them, and now that will never happen because she saw you in tiny shorts! You know, relatable, everyday things. But what if your issues were a bit more extreme?
All I need is a decent night's sleep!
Take my good old friend, Henry Spencer, for example. Henry lived in a tiny apartment in a hyper-industrialized world. During an emotional dinner with his girlfriend's family, he discovers she has given birth to his baby. As a result, he is forced to marry her. Henry is soon abandoned by his new wife, who cannot take care of her alien-like baby, and Henry is left to parent alone. Henry's struggles only get worse as the baby gets sick, and his relationship with his neighbor across the hall gets fiery. As we follow Henry throughout David Lynch's Eraserhead, it is hard not to sympathize with his overwhelmed state and fear. After all, it seems almost every scene is crafted toward that end. That is, except for 2. After Henry discovers that his child really is sick.
Oh, you are sick.
Henry cares for him all day, and then, at night, lays in bed, trying to sleep. His gaze is drawn to and locked on the radiator, which emanates a consistent hum that is almost relieving after the events of the day. All of a sudden, a light emanates from behind the grate of the radiator, and just like Henry, we are drawn towards its glow in the darkness. As we follow the light through the back of the radiator, we are greeted by a blonde woman with big cheeks, who is dressed in a shiny white dress and is centered on a vaudevillian stage. She smiles at us, dances, steps on some creatures, and then backs away behind the curtain as we are pulled back to reality. We will see this lady in the radiator 2 more times. But first, let's figure out what this strange and unsettling first scene of hers represents, and why it is in this movie. The clues begin almost immediately, with the light from the radiator and the sliding doors, which appear to be made from wall stucco. Once we pass through and see this constructed stage of tiles and lights, it seems as though the design of the set and how we arrived at it are indicative of some special transportation. We have now entered a world different from that of Henry Spencer's room, and are now spectators of a show. Then, the radiant lady walks in with her cherub cheeks. Her bright appearance, bubbly personality, and youthful appearance immediately identify her as something different from everything that has come before. She is almost angelic for this universe. As she dances across the stage, a wet little creature falls from the sky. It bears a similar appearance to Henry's baby, but is also a spermatozoon. Many more fall as the lady dances. Then the lady dances over to one and squashes it with her left heel. She squashes another and then vanishes behind the curtain. These creature designs, sets, makeup, and costumes are all intentional and are working in tandem to create this dreamlike environment that Henry is clearly experiencing in bed. We have joined him for this theatrical experience in his mind. Like most dreams, all of the imagery is quite symbolic. The lady is hope and salvation. The sperm-like creatures are Henry's fear of reproduction. The stage is, wait for it, an escape.
And now, crickets.
Lynch is a painter by training. The mise-en-scène conveys all of this meaning on its own. But just as with most paintings, the framing of the content is just as important to our analysis of a scene, if not more so. As the world of this dream comes to life, Lynch tracks along the edge of the stage. As each light bulb lights up, this movement not only introduces us to the initial dimensions of the space, but also greatly communicates the materialization of the sub-world of the film. As the camera comes to a rest at the final bulb, we suddenly see the white shoes of the lady, which motivates a tilt and track back to a full shot from the audience looking up at the stage and the lady. Not only does this create spatial awareness, but the movement has been relatively missing from most of the film up until this point. The smooth movement contrasted with the static shots from the rest of the film really helps enhance the scene's dreamlike quality. Lynch utilizes this full shot of the stage for most of the scene, but does push in for two reasons. Reason 1. He wants to show the lady's face. Her bubbly, joyous performance is something Lynch wants us to see and take in. No one in this movie has had a personality this enthusiastically happy, so we are meant to take notice of this performance shift as well as her design. The other reason for pushing in is to see the creatures. Again, this is to see the design of these wormy guys, but it is also to illustrate their importance to this dream and their understanding of the film as a whole. Their look is meant to evoke memories of the baby and the thing that floated from Henry's mouth at the beginning of the film. That way, when they are squished, we are forced to think about why. The choice to only push in for these specific shots makes their importance obvious to the audience and forces us to subconsciously make note of these symbols as we continue to move through the film. The transitions into and out of this dream world are crucial to having the scene read as, well, a dream. The sliding door is open to blackness, which is then used as a way to transition to the tracking shot that reveals the stage. Similarly, a fade to black at the end of the scene, as the lady backs into the curtains, pulls us out of the dream. When you think of sleep, you think of closing your eyes, right? You think of the black void of slumber. Well then, it makes sense that black is used to bookend the scene. These editing techniques, accompanied by the framing, help to bridge these different segments of the movie and cement them as something unique within the film that is already quite aesthetically unique. Visually, this film could play as a painting, photograph, or flipbook, but there is one final element that sets this film apart and really utilizes the medium to its fullest extent. The sonic realm is quite important to the success of Eraserhead. Lynch and Alan R. Splett crafted soundscapes for the film that consisted of powerful drones and hums. These low, throbbing sounds create an unsettling, almost repressive atmosphere. This first Radiator sequence is quite different, though. As the scene begins, a plucky organ comes in powerfully. Only a faint wind can be heard in the background. The music is a relief to us and offers our first reprieve from the oral soundscape from before. The music stops. We hear the squish in silence. Then, after a beat, the music kicks back in, and we are relieved and dancing once more. By the end of the scene, as we fade to black, the music is lost for good, and our soundscape is once again overtaken by the repressive drone from before. The Radiator scene is one of two. In this scene, we are introduced to this world. We see its imagery, characters, logic, and sound. It gives us all the clues we need to figure out what this scene is to our protagonist. It's a dream, just in case that wasn't clear. And what it means for our analysis of the film as a whole. By the second scene, in which the lady in the Radiator sings, "In heaven, everything is fine," we can finally see that this lady and the world she inhabits is a dream world, where Henry's anxious and fearful mind can flee for a moment of escape and reprieve. Henry is finally given the promised catharsis in this film's final moments. Then, surrounded by light, he and the lady share a long embrace. In the final moments of David Lynch's Eraserhead, Henry has escaped, where everything is fine.